We're back. We
okay?
No, we've just been really busy. Like it just gets busy like in flurries, and then we got time to actually film. It's like 5 o'clock here, so the lights going, so we've got to be snappy.
Yeah, I think when we're kind of not in lockdown as well, with the shop being open full time, we're gonna have to it's gonna be a lot of darker videos.
We'll just get some lights. Anyway, for anyone who doesn't know, really quickly, we're BS. We have a luxury resale shop in Shepton Mallet, Somerset. We resell high-end luxury goods.
Why are you doing like a robot?
Because I thought, my words. And I'm Bethany, this is Austin.
Hey.
We review luxury goods, either our personal or things that are in the store.
Hauls.
We also do hauls and things like that. So today's video, you've probably seen from the title, wherever it is, we previously both worked for Mulberry. We're in Mulberry country, Shepton Mallet, founded here, factory shops here, warehouses are here, distribution centres here, and where they make the bags is over there.
It's here.
So we're in Mulberry country, so we met at Mulberry, and then I worked for Gucci, Vivienne Westwood, you've done Dior, Jimmy Choo.
We work for loads of different luxury companies.
A plethora.
If you will, yeah.
So this video is basically, we're just gonna like skim the top surface of what it's like to work at Mulberry, in case any of you are like looking to work at Mulberry, or you think that it's like your dream job and then we completely scare you out of it. No, we're joking.
And you think, or you can think of nothing worse, and you just want to hear about,
or you want to hear about it because you're a Mulberry collector or whatever like that, and discounts and things. We'll talk about discounts. We'll talk about
exposity. You can call it exposity.
Staff purchases very briefly. We'll do a full video on that because it's like,
yeah, boom, it just blows your mind.
And we'll just talk about our general overall experience for working for the company. So what we'll do first is run through our like positions we have held in the company and what we did, because it might be very different for someone who works in like the distribution centre.
Of course.
But we go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you keep saying the company. What as a side note, what is that program where they kind of, the company is like the government, like FBI?
Oh, what did it? Oh, is it?
What is it?
It's not Line of Duty, is it?
No. Okay. If anyone knows, put in the comments.
Oh no, it's Prison Break.
Prison Break.
Yeah,
yes, the company. When you keep saying the company, I feel like, oh, the company.
I work for the company.
No, Mulberry. Okay, yeah. So our positions first.
You.
I was a sales assistant. Then I was a visual merchandiser. Then I was assistant manager. Yeah. Assistant to the manager.
Were you supervisor first?
Supervisor. Sorry, yeah, I was. That's right. Supervisor, then assistant to the manager. Yes.
And I just didn't do much. No, I was.
You were sales.
I was sales.
Visual merchandiser.
And visual merchandiser.
You were there. You were there a lot less than me though.
I was
there for like
less.
what, 2.5, 3 years.
Also was my manager. First, we'll get on to that first actually. Relationships within the country are A-OK. In the company are A-OK. Because you were my boss technically.
Yeah, but
we didn't really talk.
You say that. No, we didn't.
Oh, well.
But you said that it was like kind of more. There were people above me in the store, so it wasn't as if I was the kind of. I want to say head honcho. Does anyone say head honcho anymore?
Head honcho.
But I wasn't. No, just to clarify. So I think like if you think, oh god, that was like your boss. It wasn't really. I was above you, but it wasn't like, you know. No. Anywho.
So we worked at Outlet. Now Outlet is slightly different, obviously, from full price, but then I think as well it has its huge advantages.
Why?
Because we can access like all the stores like database. We had more close knit relationships with like the merchandisers, e.g. the people that put stock in the stores. Because we were Outlet, we could request like older seasons, see if they had like these rare bags in and stuff, whereas full price have less access to that because they don't want to promote. Obviously, they would never promote an off-season in a full-price store.
So a good example. I won't necessarily mention the specific bag because it happened a lot of different times with a lot of different items. But if you knew of something you wanted from like 4 or 5 seasons ago, you could email this particular person, who we're still friends with now actually, who was at the time head of merchandising. And basically, if they had one mulling round, which maybe they hadn't sent to any of the outlets or the factory store because they were just one piece, which they had in the factory, they could check stock for you. you, let you know the price, which is always heavily discounted, correct?
Yeah.
Items you might find sometimes in a sample sale, that kind of thing.
But even more than that, like not even,
rarer.
Even rarer. My one top major tip if for a consumer is if you're looking for an old bag, just pester the outlets, because there's a really large chance they've got one. They're just not allowed to release it to you. But if it's over the time, you're like, oh, go.
I would also say, like, I guess it is a bit different, being really honest, because if you kind of call them cold and say, do you have, like, I don't know what it would be, but a bag which you feel that they may have one of or something, the truth of the matter is they're going to say, no, it's not on our system, bang. Because a lot of the warehouse stuff, actually, just to clarify, isn't on the major internal system.
Yeah.
It's for the merchandiser to actually check worldwide, which is a different system. Now, just before we go off on a mad tangent, I'll just finish that story. That what would happen is that the merchandiser I would call or say, do we have one, or email, do we have one of these? Yes, I do. How much is it? X, Y, and Z. Right, can you send it to our store? They would send it to our store, we'd have a look, we'd buy it. If not, we'd either send it back to the warehouse, or it would go on the shop floor. Now,
we could do that for customers as well.
We could do that for customers for sure.
Just like we were like searching for bags we wanted, and then
no, not at all. But what I'm saying is, if these came up, or we had a line in, for example, say you really wanted one, and maybe at the time you couldn't afford one, as a member of staff, you could wait, and once that line had gone through, you might find there were 2 or 3 left, and you could check those bags for yourself. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
So there was that a perk of working for outlet. So in terms of,
so what you're saying, just to top that off, a perk of working for the outlet was the fact that you had so
access to back seasons, whereas
which randomness basically,
whereas the full price stores don't have that access. So even if you really wanted the bag from last season ago and they had like 27 billion in their warehouse,
very likely they'd send you one to the new Bond Street store.
Yeah, they're not allowed to send you one at all.
Okay. Yep.
So that's another point. Is like, that's what I was saying about if you pester the outlet staff enough, there's a good chance they have your bag. But I say that within reason.
Yes.
Like if you're looking for like
a unicorn,
a Bella or something like that, then they're not really going to have it. But like later Lexus, they still have quite a lot of like rose petal season, that kind of season.
Like when you're talking the last like kind of 5, 6, 7 years,
They keep a stock.
Well, they just have
repairs and stuff and things like that. Anyway, so one of the main things, obviously everyone wants to know, is discounts. There are two like bars of discount. So if you outlet discount, you've got 30% off outlet price. Yeah.
So outlet once again was already around minimum of 33% off.
33% off full retail, and then you've got an additional 30% off. And then off of full price, you got 50%. However, you weren't allowed everything. You had to put in a request. Yeah. And if the bag was like really popular, then you'd be put on like a waiting list.
Yes, it would be almost like declined. So if they had, to be quite frank, you can have 50% off full price. And actually, sometimes it was a little bit less than 50, a little bit more than 50% off.
It was a little bit more.
It was kind of, they didn't have the VAT
like,
or something as well.
Yeah.
It was a tax. Anyway, so although that seems like you say it really good, and loads of people had like, if it was, for example, when the black zip base would have came out with the orange inside, which everyone wanted, they had so many, they made so many, it was quite easy to get one. If you wanted one of the smaller ones, or maybe in a croc, it would have been impossible, because they weren't as many units made.
They prioritise customers.
Of course.
Now within this, though, we had budgets. So per season, but it didn't really work out like that. It was like per every 6 months, really.
I think they said season to be kind of cool, like, oh yeah, per season. But it was every 6 months.
Yeah, you got a limit, you got an allowance that you were allowed to spend, and I think it was like, it wasn't very much, it was like £2,000. It was
2,000, but bear in mind, that's technically would be over £4,000 worth of full price merchandise, right? Yeah.
But some people would just spend it all at once as soon as they got their thing.
One of the main problems with that, being really honest, and being starting from where we did, the very bottom of the sales ladder, which once again the pay itself was kind of, it was minimal, should we say?
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. What I would say is, it was very hard to spend would be £2,000, unless you were doing the job as a kind of a side job, or if that was your main income, I would define you to spend.
I never maxed out, but a lot of people did. But they bought like a couple of bags, and that was it.
And what you found was when people left and they knew they were leaving, they would max it right out. Yeah. And I think towards the end they actually stopped that because people were, well, I'm going to give in my notice and kind of spend my.
It doesn't roll over though, so it resets every season for 6 months. It resets, so you don't get what you haven't spent carried over.
No.
It's just the same again.
So if you haven't spent it in 6 months, in the next kind of
it's gone.
Season starts,
it's
gone.
Away.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would borrow, you weren't allowed to, but would borrow someone else's discount because they spent all theirs and they weren't spending theirs. But you weren't allowed. If anyone was aware of it, you were told off. And
to be honest, like I said, I mean, there were very few people we worked with that would spend that much. I'll give you the reason why. As much as that was a full price deal, originally I think towards the end it changed, but originally that didn't include it was a different budget for your off price, your outlet. It wasn't the same as your full price. You had a budget for full price and a budget for outlet.
Did you?
100% it was different, yeah. Because you could look at their full price.
It wasn't like that when I was working there, so that must have been prior to
so that
me working
and then they changed it, and they changed it again, I think, before we left.
They changed it a lot.
A lot of people were abusing it, though, I will say, because we were just generally, well, to be fair, happy to be there, but also fans of the merchandise, if you like. So we would buy for ourselves.
A lot, to be honest. If something was a bargain, like I bought shoes that were like 20 quid with the discount.
Yeah, I was going to say you had discount, yeah.
Obviously, we get first dibs as well. It's just how it is. It comes into the store, it's there, we put it behind.
And you've got to remember, this is, once again, we're talking about an outlet or a factory shop kind of business. So sometimes you'd get one piece of something, or you get 12. And the managers were pretty good. It wasn't a case of, well, if you want to buy it and you got your allowance, yeah, you can buy it. But I've got to say, there were the perks apart from that, few and far between.
I'd actually say the managers abused it more than anyone else.
I say abused, not in a negative way necessarily. They would use it like we would.
They would use it, and they would also give their discount out to randoms. Not randoms, like Susie, my second cousin twice removed.
I've got to say, I mean,
it's meant for you're allowed to use it on, like, I would be able to use it on my mum.
Yeah,
it's my mum
your immediate family.
Store, but obviously it comes out of my allowance. The managers have a higher allowance band than the people on the shop floor do. They also have perks, so like store manager would get a new handbag every season, so they got to pick.
They also got credit for clothing.
Credit for clothing, that's the store manager, and then the assistant manager would get similar but very much smaller, and then you also get perks for your time in the company. So one of the managers had been there for 10 or 15 years, and she got a G. She got ground, which isn't a lot really. It's not even a Bayswater. You couldn't get a Bayswater.
At the time, Bayswater. I remember we having that discussion with her, and she was over the moon with it. Obviously, she wasn't being ungrateful, but I think it was a case of, I can't even buy your top selling bag after 20 years with the company.
No.
You know? Yeah. But yeah, sorry.
So next, let's go on to, if you have any further questions about these things we're talking about, then do message us and we can elaborate more for you. But I don't want obviously this video to be 7 hours long.
And we kind of, as you probably know already watching our videos, we spitball a lot. We go back and forth. So from our point of view, I don't want to miss anything. Or if we do miss something, just ask and we'll message back.
Pay.
We'll comment back.
SA pay or sales assistant pay was bare minimum wage. It literally was as minimum as they could pay you for your job.
I would agree.
And that's not hate.
You can find that on Google. I don't know what that job site place is, but you can find that out. It's not anything new.
It's not great. If you compare it to the wage I was taking then at Gucci were probably paying about 5 times more than Mulberry were.
5 times.
For the same job.
Yeah.
Then you had commission.
Now this was a messed up situation as well, I think.
So you have a store commission, and it is split between everyone in the store, even the managers who don't actively sell handbags.
No, probably the time,
that's the truth.
I was going to say maybe an hour, maybe even a day's worth, a week if you're lucky. They would be on the shop floor to cover lunch or something, but they would be doing other stuff, managerial duties. However, they did get. They had part of that commission. Now the problem would be is it was a very convoluted way of doing it. But what happened was, whatever was sold, a commission of I believe whatever percent it was.
It was like
2.5 or something. It was nothingness. And now once again, if you think of a store like Bicester, for example, who makes well, I won't give exact figures out, but millions and millions and millions a year. The place where we were definitely was nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. So the commissions are very different. However, when it was split, what was annoying was there were staff members which maybe didn't do as much as others, sales-wise I'm talking. And also, for example, people on the till, we had specific till staff, which wouldn't serve a person ever. They would serve the till, obviously, but they wouldn't sell a bag, if you will, or a pair of shoes or whatever, and they would get the same commission as you. Now, that wasn't so much of a problem, but what was, is you could have someone stood there for 5 hours a day, just looking around, and we're getting away with it most of the time now, getting the same commission as someone selling 15 bags in that same day.
Yeah,
so it was split equally, but it was so unequal and unfair.
Whereas other luxury companies, which we will talk about in another video, it is individual and store. So you get both, whereas this was literally store split. It would be about between £100 and £200 on additional to your monthly paycheck.
In Mulberry, which is nothingness.
Nothing.
In comparison, just to give you a good example, in Jimmy Choo, this would be Bicester. I could make anything between 1,000 and 2,500 commission per month extra on top of a wage, and I got paid well as a basic wage.
So that's £100 to £200 extra working for Mulberry in comparison to Jimmy Choo, which is.
And I'll be honest, I probably worked harder for Mulberry. Truth be told.
Yeah, because there was less people, so you had to like convert the sales more. It was very.
Shout out Jimmy Choo.
It was very sales driven in terms of like converting footfall. Literally everyone who came through the door had to have attention in order to potentially convert a sale. It was very. I think because the store was quieter, it was very like cat fight.
Yes,
it was very
100%.
catty for me personally, but I love the job and I love the product, so it kept me there. Let's move. I'll mention that again in a minute. Holidays were the same as everywhere. Your 2 weeks, however, because they were majority of the time short-staffed, because they struggled to hire at this particular Mulberry outlet, we as a couple weren't allowed to take holiday together.
Which once again wasn't a huge problem, because when we first started that wouldn't have been a problem. So why would it be when we were together? What I would say though, which was really annoying, and I was just going to say then, was with holidays specifically, I think. Multiple times we were kind of told, oh no, you can't take those off, and every single time, anytime you asked for a holiday, even if it was the day, for example, that these holidays were released to you, I don't know if some people have that in their job, that there's a certain period of time you're allowed to get your Christmas holidays, or from then on, if that kind of makes sense. What would happen is all of a sudden the managers would have block. Yeah,
the managers would book first, and then you have to book around the managers. And if 2 managers have got it off once, then no one else can have holiday.
And I understand 100%. That's kind of the way the world works. That's fine. But then on the flip side, when you want someone to kind of really kind of work their what's up for you, it's very hard to kind of keep that respect when, for example, I think I worked every single Christmas Eve and Boxing Day I was in that store.
Same.
And
New Year's Eve.
Bear in mind at that point.
And New Year's Day.
It was told by everyone who'd listened that everyone alternates, each year someone gets a different. It never happened, and I would say every single year the managers got their time off.
Because of where we are as well, Glastonbury Festival is literally like the field behind our house. So there's some members of staff that have been going to Glastonbury Festival since they were children, so they were guaranteed to have Glastonbury Festival off, and anyone new that came in could not have it off.
But it was a given that they got that every year, which was very unfair.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm not being. I know it sounds like a bit kind of. Being a bit just negative, but the truth is that sometimes you need a little bit of kind of give and take, and it needs to be fair.
It needs to be fair. No, it's fair. It's not. Anyways, next point, staff sales. I'm going to do a full video. We're going to do a full video about staff sales, because it's a massive thing in Mulberry, and a lot of everyone knows about it. It's a very open thing that's not open. It's like low-key secret, but not.
I feel like it's one of those, like a showbiz secret when someone's like a horrible person, but only people in showbiz know that, and then all of a sudden you find out, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kind of everyone knows about it, but not really. So we'll do a whole video on that, yeah?
Yeah, so it's basically when the bags are slashed inside, we'll let you know how that process works. But it basically means the staff members get the bags at a very large discount, and they cannot be repaired within Mulberry. It's a perk of the job, and therefore you can't, they are as they are.
You also,
and you can't sell.
I was going to say, when you're with the company, you also can't sell it. Obviously, you can't do anything.
You can't sell any Mulberry while you're with the company.
No, whether it's bought full price, whether it's bought outlet, you cannot sell items you bought whilst working there if you're still working there. However, when you leave, obviously, it's your property, do it with it what you will. However, once again, they can't be repaired. So a lot of the time, I mean, people will mention all different kinds of stuff about that, but I think from our point of view, the best thing to do is we'll do a whole video on it because there's so much about it in there.
It's so in depth, and why they do it, what they do it for, and all this is charity based.
And it's actually really good.
It's really good. So we'll mention that in another video if you want to hear about it. Another thing they do though is a one staff night, which is normally in like November, December, and it means that every single member of like the Mulberry team, whether you're in distribution or shop floor, can go to an outlet and receive 50% off of anything in store. So 50% off the outlet price.
Which was obviously more than, sorry to interrupt, but that was more than we would have got working for the company at 30%.
Yeah. The only problem with that is that the people that worked in the outlets were working, so they never got to go. We had to serve champagne to the other members of staff that had come
from
to
the
spend
offices.
to get 50% off. They used to come from London to get their 50% off, and we weren't allowed to purchase.
So a lot of the time, I will say, I mean, in that respect, the managers were quite fair. We weren't allowed to pitch on that day, but I think, and that was usually an evening.
It was an extended opening hours.
Obviously, it was kind of closed to the general public. It was specifically for Mulberry employees. And what I would say, which was cool about that, is as much as you're right, we weren't allowed to purchase. On quite a number of occasions, actually, because we were working and we were working we were getting paid for it. But it was, to stay a long night to 10 or 11 in the evening, we were kind of given that day if we wanted to purchase something that day on that date. Yeah, we were for sure.
Okay, no one ever told me.
Yeah, I think you only did one though, didn't you?
Did two.
Two, okay.
Thank you, sir.
You did one. Get over it, God.
One big perk of the job is that you get to do a full factory tour. You get to tour leather distribution. You get to tour the storage centres, repairs, factories, all the different techniques of working, machines, offices.
Leather training.
You get all those kind of perks, which is really cool because obviously not a lot of people get to go in the factories ever, etc. Another perk of the job is you get a day's training in London when you start. I say that like it's exciting. It's not. You go to the head offices, which is actually really cool.
It's really nice.
In Kensington, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I remember going. I went with I think one or two of the other members of staff at the time, and the one thing I remember.
Did you? I was on my own.
Were you?
Yeah.
I won't say who I went with for obvious reasons, but I went with a couple of people. It was nice. But what I would say, what I found really insane at the time was. It was my first, I've worked within retail, I guess, before, but it was my first proper luxury, you know what I mean? This is years and years ago. I remember going there and thinking, like, I feel a bit like Devil Wears Prada, because all those glass, it's very like that, isn't it? You know what I mean?
The cafeteria,
the clackers,
you got all the free food.
Yeah. It's very much like that. So I think that was kind of my first, oh wow, this is cool. But then you go to your normal job and you're a bit like...
You're about to Shepton,
Okay.
But also within those tours, my lights just went out.
All of the lights.
Oh, they just came back. Within the tours that they have around the factory, like groups and batches of new staff come and they come to the factory shop afterwards to have a tour.
Oh yes.
So you had all the London workers and they would be like, "Oh,
yeah, we used to swap
working here." And I was like, "Not really. You're in London."
Well, they'd just been to the factories, which obviously they work in it technically for them. As much as that office was lovely, it was an office, and then they get to see the bags being made, as you said, and all that kind of stuff. And the last kind of bit of the trip before they left for London or wherever else they came from, we had people from Ireland, we had people from Japan.
Yeah, because they've got an island store.
We had people from all over the world though, and they would come and say, "Oh, it must be really, really nice to work here," and blah blah blah. And a lot of them who'd only kind of just started in full price couldn't believe how cheap the outlet was. Yeah. I actually think a lot of the time that was the currency conversion as well, though.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Side note.
So, to be honest, it was good working outlet because you did get to see the fun things come through, and you got to get when the rare car rivets came in, you got to phone the customers and tell them they were in, and they get so excited. And
yeah, and not that it doesn't happen so much nowadays. I guess it happens a lot more. But Mulberry's not one of those brands which necessarily they sell out. As in, I know that for example the Monopoly thing was popular, but there's not many bags and stuff which are literally like a waiting list. I need,
no,
right?
Not anymore.
Compared to other companies, right? But what I'm saying is, I do think it's quite funny because it's one of those companies that if you work for full price, I just don't think you'd kind of just be it's very, so there's that bag for sale today. It's the new one in. Okay, cool, put it on the shelf and wait for someone to come and buy it. Whereas with the outlet...
so much stock as well, though, out on there at the moment.
Yeah, an outlet, so yes, they have.
Like, more than we ever had. Just brimming with stuff at outlet. We will do an outlet tour. There is an outlet haul posted down below. And one last thing that I want to mention, and I might do like individual videos for individual things.
Because I think we forgot loads.
Yeah.
But it's a long video already, I guess.
Yeah, uniforms are a really big thing in Mulberry that a lot of people like complain about. So when I was working there for women, we had a pencil, it was a Mulberry suit, it was made for Mulberry, but it wasn't Mulberry quality. They were so bad. The linings of the pencil skirt would roll up, so then your whole skirt would ruche up the sides.
I didn't have that problem, but yeah.
They were very fitted as well. Then you had to tuck your shirt in. And for any of my plus size ladies, it's just not a fit. Like,
we ain't no tuckers.
It's just it's not even uncomfortable. It's just like it's just like anyway. I know it looks smarter though. I'm not hating. We had silk Mulberry shirts with Mulberry trees on that they sold at sample sale. Afterwards.
Which are actually really nice.
So they do come up for sale now and then. But they were dry clean only. And we were on minimum wage, and we were like, dry clean.
And in the actual contract, I remember it saying, and we were all thinking, what? Because the men's were different; they were cotton, but you had to dry clean your uniform. It was your responsibility to do so. And people who are working like 5-6 days a week, how?
Well, I had 2 shirts, and 1 suit for 5 days a week, sometimes overtime.
And you know what? It was really funny, actually. It's just a side note. And once again, this is kind of, it's not a peek behind the curtain, but it's just a funny thing to think about when you see these massive luxury companies. Yeah. If a shirt came in, for example, for the ladies, if a shirt came in a spare, or someone had ordered one, or someone had just left the company and there was a spare hanging, it was literally
cat fight.
Like, I need one. I've got a rip on this. I've got a tear on this. And it was quite funny because
they were so small. Even the size 10 ladies wanted the size 14 because they were so fitted. So I was wearing a size 12, 14 at the time, and anything came up that they all wanted it before me, and I was like, I'm not getting anything. Yeah. Whereas they had all size 10s just sitting there. Anyway, and a blazer jacket over the top. After 3 months of working for the company, you had to do your 3 months probation to get discount at all.
So all the discounts we mentioned before, we should mention that actually, that you have to pass your probation, not just 3 months. Sometimes it's extended to 6. But once your probation was passed, you get your card, and they would say yes, you can have your.
And you got discount. A gold Mulberry tree little badge, which I love. Anyway, so when you finish working there, you have to hand it all back in, including your tree badge. Hashtag totally nicked mine. You too?
Same.
Yeah.
Mulberry, come at me.
Anyway, you can wear your own shoes, black tights or no tights. I think personally, if you have to tuck, then you should wear tights. Yeah.
Sorry, just on the little tree thing, the little kind of pin, I guess you'd say. The amount of people that used to ask to buy those in store, and then even
But then they started selling them at
sample sales.
And I was like, I worked 3 months for that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry, I threw you off there.
Oh, you're such a douchebag. Anyway, then they swapped, when Johnny came in, they decided they were going to swap the uniforms completely because we're just rebels without cause, and they gave everyone Reese uniforms. Full Reese, the high street shop.
Is it blue or black?
You could choose. Okay. It's changed again now. They got a new uniform, which is actually quite nice. But just as we were leaving, you got to keep your suit. Men didn't. Well,
because it was a suit. But once again, I know Bethany went through the ladies' clothes. Mine was a black suit, which was a Mulberry suit actually, and white shirt. That was the suit with a black tie.
So they changed to a Reese. Now, Reese, for anyone that knows, only goes up to a size 14. So if you're over a size 14,
forget about it, Jack.
Wouldn't supply you the same uniform as everyone else on the shop floor. You had to wear your old uniform. So basically, if you were plus size or over, because size 16 isn't plus size, I'm just saying.
No, it's not.
But if you were size 16 or you were 14 and you couldn't fit into this really small, tiny skirt.
If you're 14, had a good Christmas.
Yeah, you had to have the old uniform. It was basically like a calling card.
You're bigger.
Bigger, and I was like, no way, because I didn't fit into a Reese size 14. I don't know anyone who fits into a Reese size 14.
Yeah, I was just gonna say something as well. There were 2 or 3 people which on the shop floor. I probably only about 8 ladies which didn't fit into it. I'm saying there was only like half which fitted into those uniforms.
I was the only person that wasn't allowed a proper uniform when we left.
Really?
100%. That's why. Some other members of staff who you're thinking of had left already.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
So I was the only person, I was at the time in jeans. I wore a size 12, but this Reese pencil skirt suit was so small and tailored.
And once again, with all due respect, people are different shapes too. It's all very well talking about size. Like I think, and if the manager of the store ever gets to watch this, I hope you laugh. I remember when I first started, there was like a 30 waist, and I went to like a 38 by the time I'd finished. I love my food, guys. What can I tell you? And I must have changed my uniform. Like every single time she asked me, "Oh, we got your new uniform coming in. Do you need a bigger size?" And I was like, "Yeah." What I'm saying is, the old uniforms were cool for that. It wasn't a problem. But they wanted. What really annoyed me was they were Mulberry items.
Yeah.
They'd kind of cheaped it, hadn't they? Let's be honest. With Reese, right? They bought bulk from Reese. And they obviously didn't work very well because I would say in about a year they changed those.
Yeah, they changed them again. I like to think I was solely responsible for the revolution of the uniform, because to be honest,
I don't see how anyone in that company, which was over a size 14, could physically fit into uniform. It was
one of the factors in the end why I left, because discrimination of any body types in any form is just unacceptable.
Agreed.
In every
all
sense.
joking thing aside, 100%.
It's not cool.
If you're treated or you have to look different from a company because of that. Yeah, not cool, guys.
It's just not cool. So it was one of the factors. Also, the manager at the time, we won't name names, she's still within the company, told me when I was a bit upset that I wasn't allowed the same uniform as everyone else, said, "Don't worry, your diet's going well."
In fairness, like you weren't dieting.
I wasn't dieting.
It wasn't a diet or like...
I didn't want to lose weight. I was quite happy. And I was just like, okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Whether that person meant,
they didn't think about it, but then you've got to think. If you're a store manager, you have to. I was just gonna
like that. That sounds like you could be maybe catty, and maybe it was. I don't think it was. I personally don't think it was. However, what I will say is, at that point and in that position, like nowadays, you can't say those things. You just can't say those things.
But you can't say those things in life. It's just rude.
No, I meant that. I said nowadays you just can't say those things. It's not whether that they feel that way or not. That's not how people should be.
It's not a factor of how I can do my job. In fact, I did my job pretty well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was one of the moments where we decided to leave. We both left at the same time. We won't really talk about it in this video. If anyone wants to know the reasons why we left, then we will do a video. We will spill the tea.
Yeah.
It's not so much tea, but it was a number of things within the company that they just refused to address. And it wasn't the company as such, it was the
it was the store.
If we're going to be truthful, it was the manager at the time in the store would not take it any further than herself. She didn't think it was a problem, so it never went further. So then when we left, it was all a big surprise to higher up area managers and things.
I was going to say, when we actually left as we did together, because obviously at the time I was in management as well, and I got a phone call from the area manager, and she said, "Well, why wouldn't you?" After me reading off my issues, our issues, I should say as well. Why wouldn't you come to me with this? I said, "Why would I? The person you picked to be at the top level of that store has been doing what she's been doing for years with multiple different people, and you've done nothing at all. You've been made aware of these different things." And she said, "Yeah, but I could have done something if I'd known. How can I do something if I don't know?" Firstly, that person was 100% aware of what was going on, but secondly, if I had gone to that person, the area manager, and said, "Actually, my boss is terrible, she's X, Y, and Z," the first thing she does is say, "I've had a complaint from Austin." How is that going to affect me? It's going to make my whole working life, my whole position terrible. So,
and you were manager at the time.
Yes, I was part management. So from my point of view, how was I supposed to? I do feel for those people, which we were lucky. I mean, we weren't really in the position then that we could afford to just leave. Like,
100%.
You know, we weren't. We actually just got a house. We shouldn't have been doing that at all. But it was such a strong feeling.
Our minimum wages just gone.
We had to just up and leave. And to be fair, that's what eventually made us move. We moved around, but we also went to London. We went to Oxford. When I say that, I mean working. We were still based where we are. But we'd think about this. We'd rather travel 2 or 3 hours each way than work in that store. So,
but it's not Mulberry. It's not Mulberry.
It wasn't.
It was the
management at the time.
The management of it was personal. It was a personal situation as opposed to a company policy or anything like that. It was a personal situation. We will do a video.
Just to close on that, because I think this is probably a really long video. To close on that for that comment, there was multiple different people in management as well. So if they do watch this, I'd like them, all of them, 99% of them, to know they were spot on. There was one person which was an issue, really, in my opinion. The management team, they fell in line with who they had to. It was their job, like we just said, like I had
We'll
to.
spill the tea. I don't agree
Yeah?
with you.
Okay, so good. We can have that conversation.
That'd be fun. We won't mention any names, but it's the situation that we were put in under through via working for that luxury company, which didn't put me off working for luxury companies because I went on to Gucci, etc. But it sort of like muddied the taste for working.
Muddied the taste. Wow.
For
Yeah. No.
working for
Yeah. And I think I feel for anyone who has similar
experiences.
Yeah. I would feel bad for that person because once again, I mean, we weren't really in the position to do what we did, but we did, and thank God we did it. A lot of people never do that, and they just stay in that position, which
and
is
that's, to be
bad,
honest, where my
know?
outlook comes from, that all people should be included in luxury fashion. It shouldn't be based on, it should be for everyone.
Yeah, so
not based on looks, not based on personality. If you want
that's
to
a real
shop
good place to
luxury
finish
and be within the luxury sector, then you go and do it.
So many people spout that we're all inclusive, we love everyone, any body type, any this. That's a really cool thing to say right now. And to be quite frank, the sad thing is 90% of people who say that don't really deal with those issues. I'm not saying you have to deal with the issue to help it. I'm just saying. So I think in general, when you've dealt with it firsthand, it does change your outlook on all that.
Within
for good, for sure.
Okay, so we'll wrap it up, and if anyone wants like more info on a sector like discounts or rummage,
we're going to do a video on why we left. We're going to do a separate video on staff sales and rummage. Yeah, the same thing. If there's anything else, like Bethany said, we'll do a third video on clearing those up as well.
We'll also do a video on what it's like to work at Business Village, and we'll also do a video on what it's like to work at Gucci, Jimmy Choo.
Yeah, Christian Dior.
Because we worked for them.
Vivian Westwood.
It's helpful. If you found this video informational,
informative even.
Yeah,
that one.
Then give it a like. If you didn't, then just don't
Walk
do
on
anything.
by.
Walk on by.
That was alright. Whenever with a sore throat.
And if you want more information about us and what we do, then all our links are down below in the description area.
Boom. Let's roll.